So, hi, this is Prince of Asphodel, and I'm here with Chris the Miss is how you pronounce it, yeah?
Correct.
I figured. I didn't think it was I don't know, I guess the other Christ he miss. I don't know what else it would be.
Well, that people confuse that a lot, and that's not how it is. It's Chris the Miss.
Ah, no kidding. Good to know. I have a character named Dasnius, and people have confused its pronunciation with these nuts, so I guess you've got it a little better.
Nice.
Anyway, so, can I shorten it to Chris?
Yes, that's fine.
Beautiful. So, I first came across your content, Chris, when I found your well-written page on the forums about this build that you were trying out with the new Dark Bargainer. And so since then, I've run into you in-game, and as I expected, I did struggle a little bit keeping up with you, which, since we've established you're a little bit of a better player than I am a little bit curious about how you got to this point, what your history with gaming is, and maybe what your history with DDO is.
Well, for my history of gaming, I would say the first big game that I ever played that wasn't like Flash games as a kid, the first game I played was actually World of Warships, and I do not recommend you play that game because the company is not very good, to put it lightly, and the game is in a very bad state right now. But I stopped playing that game because I found PvP games to be frustrating, especially games with such a level of imbalance as that game, because it was kind of it was partially in my control, but also not in my control, and I also was not particularly good at that game, and so that's part of why it was frustrating. And the reason I started playing DDO, actually, believe it or not, is because when I was born in 2006, my parents actually played DDO, and they were the ones that got me into it because I stopped playing World of Warships, and I was taking a walk with my dad, and I asked him, hey, do you think I could try out the game you and Mom play? It seems pretty interesting, and I probably could figure it out. So it was summer of 2019, 2020, I think, that happened, and so I've been playing for about 5.5 years-ish, and yeah, my dad got me into it, and my mom and my dad were never the greatest of players. They were more casual, and my mom doesn't play it anymore because she's working on job stuff, but my dad actually surprisingly still plays the game, and I actually still play the game with him, and you might see him running around with me in game, because I usually play with him at night. As for my history in DDO, I would say that I started off probably pretty similar to most people. My first build was not very good, unsurprisingly. It was a pure barbarian, and it used a bastard sword and a shield, but I only took the first of the two-handed fighting feats because I didn't have enough strength. And it got me to 30, and I was able to level because I leveled on normal because that's what my dad recommended to me. And I mean, after that, I was just starting to try to get more acclimated with the game, and the next build I did was a two-handed fighting paladin, which this was when I was playing that build when Feywild came out, and I would say that was the first build that I actually started doing quote-unquote endgame, because that was the build I did my first raids on, and I was 13 at the time, so I was a total jackass, and everyone hated me, and you know, that's just typical for 13-year-olds playing games. But I did learn that raiding at that time, I learned that raiding was difficult, and I was gonna have to get better at the game to do that more. So what I eventually did to learn the game was I would, in my free time, Like if I was like riding in the car, or I don't know, waiting for like I guess in school when it was like downtime at school, I would browse the wiki, just go article by article, and just try to memorize as much stuff as possible in the wiki. And eventually I got a decent grasp of the game and how the mechanics worked. And as the game has gotten older and I've gotten older, I have obviously gotten better with my social skills, but also I have gotten a better understanding of the game because nowadays, instead of just browsing the wiki, I, as you might know, I'm in Discord servers talking with people about the game, helping people out. I talk with other high-end players of how XYZ works, and I try to make my understanding of the game accessible to everyone with my builds and my videos. And I really like that the community for DDO, most people are very nice, and most people are willing to listen to me. But even those that aren't willing to listen to me, whether they know better or not, it's still nice to know that even with all of my experience, there's still plenty of things that I don't know. And that's why in my build post I always say, did I miss something? I'd love to hear what I missed, and I've learned things all the time from that. And I guess, do you want to know more about how I became so good at building? Is that more what you were hoping for?
Yeah, I'm gonna get into something a little bit more specific when I ask about that. But yeah, that was really cool. You said a lot of things there that resonated with me. That was not the origin story I was expecting, to be honest. I've played DDO for a while now, but it was also around 5 years ago, right around when the pandemic was hitting, that I first... Well, SSG gave us access to everything, so that was when I really first started exploring.
Right.
So, yeah, that's interesting to hear that you had a very similar start period than I. I am from a guild, the Princess Court, that is made up entirely of friends and family of mine. And I also, on that note, kind of noticed that I haven't seen too many people, or at least haven't mentally registered, from your guild, which is something about a unicorn.
So...
Would you mind sharing the origin of that?
Yeah, so my guild, the Noble Order of the Unicorn, actually dates back to when Galanda was a new server, and I didn't play then, and the original guild leader, Slaymore, he doesn't play anymore. And when we transferred to Orion in 2022, 23, because we were from Galanda, during the free transfers we went to Orion, Slaymore stopped playing, so he gave guild leadership to someone else who, for his time on Orion as the guild leader, he basically forbid anyone in the guild from doing any guild activities. He forbid everyone from inviting people. He forbid people from inviting people from the Discord. He basically was supreme ruler, dictator. Everything that happens in the guild has to have my okay. And the reason he was like that was because that's how Slaymore was, and he was hoping to give the guild back to Slaymore, who still hasn't come back. So that kind of sucked. So we weren't really getting new members on Orion, because we basically couldn't. And when the second set of server transfers happened, the person who had the leadership was not really playing a whole lot. He was kind of logging in maybe once or twice a week to like do a couple quests. So someone else took over guild leadership. You might have seen him on Orion or Thrain. Nod, he's in Lowered Expectations. His current toon name is XX because SSG renamed him and didn't give him a rename, so that's funny. Anyways, he took over leadership of the guild because he was playing a lot and he knew how the transfers work because he didn't trust the other person to do the transfers, which, I mean, is fair. And eventually, Nod was held leadership on an alt of his. He didn't really play, so eventually he just came to me and said, you know, I don't really play the guy that is the leader of the unicorns. Do you want to take it? And so now I'm actually the leader of the unicorns. And the reason you don't see many people is not because it's a solo guild. We actually do have other people. But the guild, since I own it, I'm very lax about the rules, and I'm okay with people inviting people. But the bigger thing is, there's actually been quite a few people who have cycled through the guild, and they while they might not share the guild tag, they are still, in my eyes, in the guild, because I'm of the opinion that you don't need to have a guild tag to be in a guild. So I have plenty of people in our Discord server that are not in the guild, but still hop in voice chat with me, and I still run with them, and we're still good friends. And so just not everyone who I think is quote-unquote in the guild is actually in the guild, if that makes sense. There is still a couple other people in the guild who are actually in the guild, and we also lost a couple guildies to both of the server transfers, so that kind of sucks. And we haven't really been gaining new members because I'm very particular about who I would let into the guild. I don't want anyone in the guild. I would prefer it to be semi-competent, decent players, and those are, in the current state, very hard to find and convince them to join the guild and stay, because we don't offer raids or reapers. The only thing the guild really has to offer is, well, me. That's about it.
Alright, yeah, that's really interesting. I've always been in this spot where you never really see the history behind some guilds, and I always feel like I do things very differently than other people. And again, that wasn't quite what I had imagined. So that is interesting, knowing that guild has a really long history.
I don't know where the original name actually comes from. It was Slaymore's Guild, and I don't know where the name came from, and I haven't asked him. Although I am unlikely to rename it, because I feel like it would be in my best interest to honor the leaders and members who came before me, so it's probably gonna stay the same.
That's honestly probably what I would do as well. I did want to get back to builds, because like I said, I first crossed paths with you when I found your forum post on this build that seemed pretty unique. And even though that was my first encounter with one of your builds that, and when I say unique, I mean something that it's not a known split. You know, people don't run around saying an 11-6-3 this or 12-8 this. But that might not have been your first time experimenting with like off-meta creations. So I guess I'd like to know the history, maybe not with all of your builds, but when you really started to make things that were your own concoction rather than something that you copied over from a different player.
Well, I don't know how to say this, but I have never played a build that is another player's build. I might have the same split as them, but I always do my feats and my gear and my enhancements myself for every build, no matter what, and I have never copied someone's build one-to-one. Never done it.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's always, I guess that's just a personal thing for you, huh?
Even when I was somewhat new and my builds were not great, I still thought that it was better to make my own builds, because if I make my own builds, then I'm gonna learn how to make builds, versus people who just copy builds. Like, if you're a new player and you just get heroic completionist by following Strimtom builds, you're not really learning how to make those builds, you're just copying it. And I challenged myself to only play builds that I came up with, and Obviously, over the years, they have evolved and they have gotten better over time. But I mean, obviously, if you play the game more, you get better at it. I would say I don't really have a good idea of when my first quote-unquote good build was, because it was only until maybe a year or two ago when I actually started talking to the top endgame players, and that's when I really got a grasp of quote-unquote good and quote-unquote bad. But I in my build repository on the forums, I have a link to my Google Drive that has every single one of my DDO builder files, and I have over 300 of them.
Wow. All right.
Not every single one I've played, and some of them aren't complete, but most of them are either things that I've played or they are quote-unquote complete builds. And that's another thing that I like to do. I really like going into the DDO builder, going onto the wiki, and just coming up with stuff that people don't do, or trying to find something that people don't normally do. So I as a player, I hate the meta. I don't like playing the meta. I find the meta is boring and stale because, well, partially because SG is so bad at their job at balancing the game and they refuse to balance the game and make it interesting, but also because the meta is quote-unquote solved. Like those top-end players who post their builds, like that's gonna be the best, probably the best of that build you can get, and there's no creativity in that. Like, I posted a Monk Thrower build, and I did the Monk Thrower build because that was like the patch that they revamped the Monk Thrower, and that was the first time I'd ever played a thrower. And looking back, that build was technically not quote-unquote perfect, at least by today's standards, but to date that's been my most popular build because it's quote-unquote meta. And honestly, do I regret doing that build? No, I think it was good that I did the build, but now that I look at other people's throw builds, I'm like, yeah, there's no creativity in it. It's like I took most of the same things these other people did with like some personal preferences. Like I took the healing hands instead of Dark Monk, but like that's because I actually can't play any builds without self-healing. I just refuse to play them. So because I always want to be able to level well, and I always want to be able to not have to rely on a hireling, at least for the most part. So that's another. Let's just say it's a challenge playing some classes with the stipulation that I have to have healing. There's a reason I don't play Rogue at endgame, is because it can't heal. I also don't like Sork, because same thing. As for maybe how I got better at making builds, I would say, as I've said, it really helps if you want to start getting good at builds. It really helps to just go feet first and just come up with something. It doesn't have to be good, but for leveling 1 to 20 or 1 to 30, it doesn't really need to matter. The only time it matters that your build is quote-unquote good is if you are at endgame. And for wow, I've probably done over 300 past lives in this game, every single one being my quote-unquote my build. And obviously the more I do, the better I get. And it also helps that there's plenty of things in this game that do not exactly work as intended, or they have a weird interaction with something. And that's another thing that it really helps to know the strange interactions between stuff, so that way you can make the interesting builds. So one example I have of that is, as a joke, me and someone in Strintom's chat were trying to come up with the worst possible build, and we tested something really interesting. So it turns out that the paranoia effect from the Shadow Dancer Epic Strike actually has no internal cooldown on Warlock Eldritch Blast, meaning that if you're Eldritch Blasting with Cone and the Paranoia, you actually hit every single enemy, every single blast with the sneak attack damage. So, as a joke build, I actually ran this at endgame. It was not good, and I don't recommend it, but I did do it. I played a 12 Acolyte of the Skin, 5 Rogue, 3 Druid, maximum sneak attack dice Warlock build. And that is an interaction that very few people know about, and it was just worse than regular Warlock for sure, and I don't recommend you play it, but that's the kind of thing that I really, really like to see, is I like to see those kinds of weird interactions, or I like to see kind of, it's very much a not meta thing, and, well, as I've said, I don't like the meta, and I don't really have good advice on how to start making quote-unquote good builds, because what you define as a good build is could be up to interpretation. So
Sure.
if you want a quote-unquote good build, to some people that might be, you know, maximum DPS, can solo a raid boss kind of thing. But in that case, it's like, just play repeater or thrower. That's really it. Which is why I much prefer to make more, I guess, solo-friendly builds or fun builds. Obviously, I still gear them out as an endgame build, and I have all the past lives and the brief points, yada yada, but I try to make fun builds rather than quote-unquote good builds, and I mean, could I make quote-unquote good builds? Oh, easily, I could easily do that. I just choose not to. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It resonates pretty strongly with me as well. You know, one of the incentives that I used to try and convince some of my friends to come play this game with me is just that philosophy, is that I told them that this game is really special because it really does feel like someone who spends more time on their build can perform just as well, if not better, than someone playing the best build. And that's kind of always what's drawn me to DDO. And so really, really reminded me of that when you were talking about the way that you make builds. So I guess I kind of, before we wrap up, I do want to get into the weeds with specifically that Dark Bargainer build that I was playing after you posted about it on the forums. And I wanted to know where that idea came from. What made you look at Dark Bargainer and say, is like tanky Vistani-like build is what this could be?
Well, the first thing that came into my head was, I have a very popular Eldritch Knight guide. It's a complete guide on how to play Eldritch Knight, and the first thing that came into my head when I saw that was, oh, this is just Eldritch Knight, because it's undead, it has some spellcasting ability, it has the death auras, and it has, or well, technically it doesn't support melee, but it has Enlightened Spirit, which is kind of a melee-esque tree, so okay, well, that's like the nice way of putting it. If you want me to tell you the actual reason I played that build because I wanted to play a Dark Bargainer, and there's like so many things broken with the Dark Bargainer tree, even to this day, that Caster Dark Bargainer does not work. So, what I mean by that is, the Bite insta-kill on both Dampier and Dark Bargainer has the wrong DC, meaning that it never lands. The negative levels on Bite on both always is 1, so it's pretty bad. But specifically to Dark Bargainer, the thing that killed it for me was on the Lamania previews, Dark Bargainer, the Pact, the Dread Mist was supposed to have a 5-second cooldown. That's what it said in the patch notes. And they even gave an explanation as to why it should be 5 seconds. They literally wrote out text explaining why it was 5 seconds. And in-game, ever since that preview, it's been 20 seconds. And that completely killed it for me, because I thought it was so cool to have a 5-second cooldown DOT Cloud, but no, it has 20 seconds. And that instantly killed any interest in it for me. Not to mention that Prey on Fear and Crushing Dread don't scale with spell power correctly, and they do like a quarter of the damage they're supposed to. So that also sucks. Now, why I chose that particular split, I I chose that particular split because you need the 19 Warlock for the Greater Death Aura, and that's like your most powerful spell. And then the one favored soul, you could also do Cleric, was for the Trance. And I guess the reason I chose to do that is when Warlock came out, well, I guess I still am, but I needed a Warlock past life, and the Dark Bargainer didn't work for caster. So I was like, okay, how do I turn this into not a caster to something I would find interesting? And so that's how I landed on that. And interestingly, I didn't copy the build, but I was inspired by years and years and years ago. Strimtom made a build about a Vistani Warlock, and the thing that I took away from that build was Enlightened Spirit's one of Enlightened Spirit's problems is it doesn't have extra critical threat range or multiplier, and that's why he went Vistani with his build, was because he wanted the extra crit range and multi, so that way he could actually do damage. And that's kind of what inspired me to do that. I could have also done it as an Inquisitive, because they also get that, but like, where's the fun in that? That's so boring. And I kind of just wanted to make a melee Warlock that would actually be quote-unquote good at endgame. And I would say that in terms of how the build performed, that build was one of the best solo builds I've ever played, and I think that the main reason the reason I gravitated towards melee Warlock specifically was because I saw Death Aura and Greater Death Aura, and I know how much those heal you. So I was like, okay, what if we make a tanky character with those? Theoretically, you would be insanely hard to kill and like below R7, and that was 100% correct. I was able to solo Reaper 7 and Reaper 8 some stuff if I was careful, and I've actually never soloed a quest on R10 before, not because I couldn't, but because, I don't know, maybe I've just been a little scared of it, and kind of not really wanting to try that. But that build allowed me to, not comfortably, but decently well do R7 to 8 solo, and I don't know if you know this, but I actually soloed some raids on that build. I soloed normal FOM, and while that is not technically the greatest achievement, what is an achievement is that I did it on a non-meta build, because the people who soloed hard FOM have A, been playing Razorclaw, so boo, and 2, they have been doing the jump exploit that prevents the boss from even hitting you at all. I didn't do either of those things. I just face tanked him and had my Death Auras heal me, and I would say that was the most stressful 20 minutes of my entire life in this game. I've never done anything more stressful. Also, that was the most rewarding 20 minutes of anything I did in this game, and I'm so pissed at myself that I did not get the recording from OBS, because that was the first video I ever tried to record, and so all my settings were completely whack, and I didn't get the recording, and I was really sad.
Shucks.
Yeah, well, I have plans to play another build at some point to solo normal FOM again and get the recording this time, just to prove that I did it. I'm trying to remember what else I did. Oh, I soloed normal Lord of Blades on that build. That was miserable. I don't recommend that. That was really bad. It wasn't so much difficult as it was terrible, but I did some other solos as well. Probably if I were to do that build again, I think what I would do instead is, well, obviously now I have more past lives, so I'd be a little bit better, but I think with Lamortia gear, you could probably do a lot better on the build, because when it came out, Lamortia wasn't out, so I was still using like Myth gear, and Lamortia gear is like a huge boon to all characters, and it'd probably be a lot better with Lamortia gear. Although I'm not exactly sure if I found the right balance of tanky and DPS, because I could tank some raids, but some raids I just couldn't do at all. Like, I could not do threats at all, and I was kind of hoping to do threats. I also was hoping to do a Reaper 1 VOD solo, and I couldn't because I didn't do enough damage, and so I ended up doing hard instead. But I think that build was. Wait, what was the original question? I've been rambling a lot.
The original question was just about what had led you to come up with that build, which you did get to.
Yeah, I guess I did.
I am not surprised that that build could solo raids. I never tried it myself. What I was missing was a bunch of past lives because I hate reincarnating, and so I always just pick one style of build for one of my characters and only get the past lives that work for that build.
Right.
I also hate switching gear, so if I can play a different class in a very similar sense, I will try to. And on that note, I was curious if you had given any thought to the possibility of playing Eldritch Knight as a sorcerer now that Dampier is able to make you undead.
I still think Wizard is better. So I would not. Alright. And then there's a couple reasons for that, but the main one is Wizard gets 5 extra bonus feats and Sorcerer does not. And on Eldritch Knight, you really, really, really need those bonus feats. Also, is kind of minor, but Sork's main stat is Charisma, which means you don't get any good skills for Charisma, but for Wizard you end up getting Spellcraft, so you get more spell power. Also, you can't get a Charisma trance without multiclassing on Sork, while you can get a trance for Wizard for Int with Harper Agent.
Yeah, I was almost thinking of doing something similar as you did with Warlock and dropping down to 18 Sorcerer.
I know that would work. The problem is, I think that I just think that I just think that Wizard would well, the cast speed is nice. I will say that the cast speed is nice. The problem is the main problem is you get extra spell points, but you don't use them for anything. The only advantage is the cast speed, and you have a lot of downsides. And for me, I personally prefer the all the the bonus feats and stuff. Although I actually do have a Eldritch Knight build planned for whenever SSG does their caster revamp, and let's just say that it's actually going to be a Dark Bargainer build, surprisingly. Well, it doesn't happen too often, but the main reason for that is because damn near anything works for leveling, and if it's like an endgame build, or supposed to be an endgame build, and it doesn't work out, I can easily tell for leveling it's not going to work at endgame, and I can just TR. Now, there has been a couple times that I've been playing stuff that is really, really, really not good, and I don't even want to log in, although that isn't super common either. I'd have to go look into my build files to see if there's any things like that, because I can't think of any off the top of my head that I have a vitriolic hatred of. But I guess what I'll say is I use the DDO builder, which the DDO builder tells you your stats, and I can just at a glance tell if the stats are good or bad. So I can very, very easily tell roughly how a build will perform based on the stats the builder provides. And there's actually quite a few builds that I have not done because I put all the stuff together and I'm like, oh wait, the stats are just not high enough. It's not gonna work. Which is one of the reasons I use the builder, is because it kind of allows you to prevent failure in a way. Like, it doesn't completely prevent failure in the sense that, you know, it could have bugs, or the game could be bugged, or, I don't know, you might not have the items or whatever, but for the most part, I try to, well, nowadays, I don't really make as many build files because for leveling builds, I kind of just inherently know what's good for leveling or what I want for leveling, so I kind of just, in my head, do the build, and you can't see it, but right now I'm playing a Dark Hunter, Artificer, Barbarian range character. It's just for leveling, and I didn't put it in the builder, I just know what I should do with the build without I've never played this build, I just know what I'm supposed to do with it, and it just works. Yeah. Oh, in the past, before I just had every single enhancer tree and every single class memorized, that happened. That did happen, and that's why I started using the builder, is to not have that happen. But that did happen, so. I think the most important thing in this game, I would say there's two. So the first one I would say is quest knowledge and raid knowledge. Knowing the mechanics of raids, knowing where every single mob pack spawns, knowing where all the traps are, is going to allow you, assuming you have enough movement speed, to keep up with the veteran players and people like me. Because for leveling, I just know, for every quest I run for leveling, I know where every single monster spawns, I know where every trap is, I know where every door is, I know where every optional is, I know everything about those quests. And that allows you to kind of take shortcuts and skip things, and allows you to go faster, because when it's when it's my first time playing through a quest, I always do everything. I go everywhere, I go to every secret door, every trap, everything. I do it all. And I do that so that way I can start to learn the quests. And I would say if you're new and you're quote-unquote bad at the game, the biggest advice I can give you is do not, under any circumstances, join any groups for anything until you have at least a couple past lives in your belt, because the worst possible thing you can do to yourself is join a group, hike at the entrance because you can't keep up, and just get free XP. That sounds good, but then a year or two down the line, you're not going to know how to run that quest. You're not going to know how to do it. So you're just going to bumble around and you're not going to know what to do. Another thing I could suggest is the wiki is a very good resource. So for my many of my lives, my first lives, I had the wiki article open for every single quest I was running, and I followed the wiki step by step on what to do. And that sounds like a lot of work, and I mean, it kind of is, but again, it's all about just memorizing how to do the quests. For raids are special because they all have special mechanics, and I would say that it's kind of a waste of time to even go into raiding until you have some past lives. Not saying you need past lives, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you should have some experience with the game and with, I mean, at least maybe not your own build, but at least have an okay build. And that goes into my second point, where the second most important thing for being quote-unquote good at the game to me is gear. You can play the most dog shit, terrible, god-awful build, and if you have good gear, people will not notice. Speaking from personal experience, gear and past lives can carry any build no matter how bad. So that doesn't mean you have to have the gear sets I put in my builds. The gear sets I have in my builds are, honestly, I feel bad for you if you farm them. I don't know why I farm them, I just do, and it's probably not what I should be doing with my time, but I do it anyways. What I do think is important is, it is very important to learn how to gear. What stats are good, what stats are bad, what items are good, what items are bad, and that's why on my YouTube channel I've started a series where I go on the wiki and I review every single item in the entire game for one category at a time, and I don't know if that's going to be helpful to people, but I hope that it at least shows them how an endgame player such as myself would look at gear. And it's really, really important, in my opinion, to know how to gear. Why? Because if you follow a build that, I mean, most people do that, but if you know how to gear, then that means that you have flexibility. That means that you have freedom. That means that when you look at my build and you're like, yeah, I'm not gonna run Relentless 2,000 times to get every item out of there, you can be like, but I know how gearing works, and I can instead farm this gear set, which is going to be worse, but also will get me through. And that's why I think gearing is very, very important. And I guess that kind of ties into game knowledge, but I also would say that specifically for raids, to learn the mechanics of the raids, there's plenty of awesome guides out there, like Vixnir's guides on the forums. They're really in-depth, really awesome. Highly recommend reading them. I can also recommend the wiki. The wiki will always tell you all of the mechanics. It might not tell you like the little quirks and exploits you can do, but I also can recommend, once you get into raiding, I can recommend joining guild raids of different guilds, especially endgame guilds. You don't have to be in their guild specifically, but the thing you learn from those is you learn the little tricks and little quirks of the raids. Like, you learn that you can Project Nemesis laser skip, or you learn that you can Stinking Cloud the Relentless boss and he doesn't do damage, or you can learn the Break Enchant works on the Relentless Grip, or you can learn oh boy, what's another one? You can learn the floor pattern in Master Artificer for the electric floor. I didn't know any of that stuff until I ran with other players who admittedly are better than me, because I'm not the best player and I can't know everything, as I've said. So running raids with people who know what they're talking about and who know how to do it is a huge help, because the worst thing you can do when you join a raid group is say nothing, not know a thing, and then do the mechanic wrong and kill everyone, or mess up the puzzle or whatever. I have zero tolerance for people that join raids, don't know them, and then they don't tell me they don't know them until after they make a mistake. I have zero tolerance for that. Am I a dick for that? I mean, maybe a little, but it is your responsibility as a player to inform your group you don't know what's going on. Me and all the other veteran players most likely are happy to help you. We are here to help you, and we will explain everything to you if you ask. That also goes for quests. If you get lost in quests, tell us. We will probably help you if we can. Don't be silent. Don't be a silent victim. Please tell us. We will help you. That's I think that's really all I have to say about that. Actually, no, I want to add one more thing. All those people who think that past lives are required to play at endgame, they are not required to play at endgame. Everything I just told you, that is what is required to play at endgame. You need to know the raids, you need to know the quests, you need to have good gear, you need to have a good build. You do not need to play... I mean, you don't have to have every past life. I have a character that was my hardcore tune, and it's not the best endgame build. It's the hardcore tune, and it doesn't have past lives, but it can contribute in raids, it can contribute in Reaper 10s, it can land its crowd control, it can do all the things you would want a build to do. And I feel like past lives, for the most part, are a way for people like me to get away with dumb stuff versus being required. The only exception to this is casters, where for casters, it is required to have every past life in the game to play a caster, because the endgame DCs are so insanely broken and dumb that you basically can never land your DCs unless you have every DC past life. That's the exception. I mean, obviously, there's exceptions, like, there's a guy who has, like, 128 DCs on his DC First Life Sork, and, like, that is true. How did he do that? This is gonna surprise you. It's game knowledge and gear and knowing the quests and knowing how to build. It always comes back to that. Always. Like, the Bard Pass life is completely useless. I have 3 Bard Pass lives because I'm trying to get full completionist on my main, and do I need that? No, but it meant I had to play some kind of Bard, which, I mean, overall is good. Well, that's fine. Well, if it's something dumb, that sounds right up my alley. On my YouTube channel, in my About Me, I have, my Discord contact information. The best place to reach me is on Discord because, I am usually on Discord most of the day, and, YouTube comments, I do read every single comment on my YouTube channel, but, I guess you could comment there as well. Also, if you have questions, you can PM me on the forums. I respond to my forum messages. I would say I don't have an email to provide. I'm not gonna give my email. If you're gonna contact me on Discord, you need to be either my friend or you need to be in a server I'm in. The biggest server I'm in that you can contact me in from is the unofficial server. It has no prerequisites to join, and you can just join it and send me a DM and I'll probably respond. I love talking about builds, I love talking about the game, and I can be very critical at times, but I mean, I would say that sometimes my critiques are fair because, I mean, I've seen people running around who have every single past life in the game, and I don't know how they did it because it doesn't seem like they know how to play the game because their characters are just terrible, and at that point it's like, I can't help you. But if you're gonna contact me, I would prefer Discord because that's the easiest thing for me to access, because if I'm in class or whatever, I can respond on Discord. I can't really easily anywhere else. Also, I can access on my phone as well. Well, that I'll probably mention you in my version of this video, so people can come take a look at you. And if you ever need or want to ask about a build, I'm almost always available, and as I've said, love talking about builds, so you're always welcome to shoot something my way, and I'll probably take a look at it. In terms of what I'm doing in the future, I actually do have a very interesting endgame build planned. Right now I'm just finishing my last Dark Hunter life, and then I will get onto that build, and it is a Dragon Lord build. I know, boo-hoo, boo-hiss, I know. It is not a Dragon Lord build that you've ever seen before, though, so hopefully that is interesting. You're welcome. I appreciate it. That's fine with me. Well, in that case, I will sign off, and hopefully I'll talk to you later. You're welcome. Later.